The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.
The Morning Sports Desk on a Monday, the 16th of December. I'm CJ Baumgartner. Corey Tackman's over there, and another week is coming up here. It's a busy week for us at the radio station as we get ready for 5 different games going on this week. A lot of stuff happening. You can find our full broadcast schedule online at WadenaRadio.com or the Superstation K106 mobile app to see where we are going. In fact, we have a wrestling broadcast coming up later in the week that's going to be pretty darn cool during the school day for Wadena, Deer Creek, and New York Mills. We have some hockey going on the broadcast schedule this week, which we'll talk about as that gets closer. But speaking of hockey, Corey, there's a pretty cool story in the Wadena area hockey community, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Against Park Rapids area on Friday night, the Highway 71 Cup, they won. The Wolverines did 9-7 over Park Rapids, and Addi Fink made history with her first varsity goal, becoming the first female player to score in Wadena high school hockey history on that. And not only that, she also got her first points earlier in the week. I believe that was against Morris Benson area as well. So getting some assists and getting a first varsity goal, which is a pretty cool story, Corey.
Very cool. And, looking at the rest of it, 9-7 victory over Park Rapids area to get the Highway 71 Cup. A lot of goals scored in that game. And when you score that many goals, every one is important. So congratulations to Addi making a little history for the Wadena Deer Creek hockey program. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And in fact, talking with Kyle Gelsine, who's in our building and of course works also as well for the Wadena Deer Creek School, mentioning obviously that Wadena Deer Creek does offer girls hockey, but it's obviously with a co-op and it's down the line, I believe, in DL. And basically it was like, instead of making the logistical thing of going back and forth, said, hey, why don't we just have her play with the boys team? And it has so far worked out pretty well, considering that she's got a goal on the board and getting to do some of that, which is just it's a really cool story. So hopefully she gets the recognition for that throughout the week for that moment. And the team overall does for a win in the Highway 71 Cup, which if you pay attention to Wadena Deer Creek hockey, that they really do. They really like to win one over their neighbors from the north in Park Rapids.
Wouldn't you with a traveling trophy?
I mean, of course, we talked about the traveling trophies on Friday's show.
Exactly.
Exactly. So that's what's going on. Once again, congratulations to Addi Fink and the Wadena Deer Creek hockey team there. Moving on into our state sports, Corey's, we kind of do a little rapid fire on a Monday. We haven't done this in a while, but I think maybe is the time for the Minnesota Timberwolves to do a little
vibes. You know about vibes?
Vibe check. Vibe check.
Put out the vibe.
Doing a little bit of a vibe check on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Last time we didn't really talk a ton about the Wolves, but, the last kind of vibe check on the Wolves was not great. That's when they had lost 4 in a row. You dropped some games to a team like Toronto that's not good this year, a team you really thought you should have came away with a victory against. And now, all of a sudden, the Minnesota Timberwolves have found their stride. They're a few games above 500. And, kind of in the thick of it in the Western Conference standings, which doesn't really matter right now. It's December. But I think that's the thing. About a month ago, the vibe around this team was kind of down in the dumps. The Cat trade was a bust. DiVincenzo can't hit the broadside of a barn. Randall doesn't care. And Ant's not doing this. And Jaden's not playing well. And I think if you were to ask about a month ago, I think you would have gotten a lot of...
Well, the vibes are wrong.
The vibes were wrong. But now as this team has gotten more time together and they've played better together, it's a little more of...
It's the vibe I love.
Because the team has not only gotten a couple wins over their last couple contests. They got a win over the Lakers on Friday night. They got a win over the Spurs on the road Sunday night as well. They've been holding opponents to under 100 points a game more frequently over the last month than they have through the first month of the season. And it's something they did all of last year as one of the best defenses in the NBA. When you can hold a team to under 100 points, there's a good chance you win that game. And it feels like the Wolves defense is kind of getting back to that now that they've kind of figured out their new stuff. I know you haven't been able to watch, play for play every game, Corey, but what is kind of the vibe you've been getting around the Wolves?
That they're a team who is figuring it out. I mean, really, you go back to that Toronto game. I think it was after the Toronto matchup. Anthony Edwards kind of spoke up, and he's known to speak up in a lot of scenarios, but that was one where he really talked about energy and effort, and they're lacking a little bit. And from that point forward, they have picked it up as far as especially things like you mentioned defensively in that defensive effort. They're 14-11. They're tied with Golden State and Phoenix. Right now, they'd be in 8th place in the Western Conference. The Clippers and the Lakers are each 14-12. So that's 6 through 10 on the Western Conference standings. I don't know. It's still, we're closing in on Christmas very, very quickly. And my just personal rule has always been, I don't need to really worry about what my basketball team is doing and where they're at until after Christmas, and really January 1st is kind of a good starting point on taking the temperature a little bit of what's going on. They're trending in the right direction. They have some improvements that they need to make. All of the things you mentioned, all of the players that you called out, all of those things were true. So it's not like because things are good now doesn't mean they weren't true then.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that it still hasn't been weird. It doesn't mean that their starting 5 is the least efficient 5-man rotation that they have of everybody that they put out there. I think that still is the case. It doesn't mean that DiVincenzo hasn't been shooting the ball poorly and Jaden hasn't been shooting the ball poorly, even though I think he helped lead the way to a victory the other night. If it wasn't the Lakers, it was someone else. Maybe it was the Laker game. It doesn't matter. Nas has not played well. Like, there's just some rotational stuff that hasn't sorted itself out yet that are also not things I'm like, it's not a death march for the Timberwolves. Like, those things will probably come along. Nas will get comfortable. Nah will get comfortable. Jaden will get comfortable. DiVincenzo, Randall will get, like, there's just cohesion that needs to happen yet that doesn't happen in the first. How long is this? Are we 2 months in or something like that?
Like a month and a half, I feel like.
Right, it doesn't happen in 6 to 8 weeks.
Right, exactly. And by the way, the Wolves lost to Sacramento on November 27th. They lost 115-104.
They always lose to Sacramento too. Always.
And that was after losing. They lost 2 games in a row. It was the second night of a back-to-back. They lost in overtime against the Rockets the night before, 117-111. Since then, the Timberwolves have won 6 out of their last 7 games. And in each of the victories, they gave up 114 to Golden State last Sunday. But outside of that, every opponent has been held to 92 points or fewer in 6 out of their last 7 games. 92 points or fewer. That includes holding a Clippers team to 80 points. Holding the Lakers to 80 points one. Like, they can, it's, defense travels, defense, whatever. Things are still needing to get worked out on the offensive end of the floor. But that was an issue for the Wolves last year. But the thing that they could lean on was defense to get them wins until they figured it out. And it feels like that's what's happening right now. And Anthony Edwards, of course, has been putting along, doing Anthony Edwards stuff. Jaden McDaniels has really played well. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has played really well. DiVincenzo has not found the three-point stroke yet, but still plays hard on defense, still makes plays. He's able to do enough in the aggregate to make up for it until he figures it out. Yeah, I think we can stop being worried about the Wolves being a disaster, because I think even if everybody laments the Cat trade, and I get it, but also even with Cat, there's a chance the Wolves probably are this record or in this same spot, and people go, oh, what's wrong? What's going on? This team was like 15-4 last year. It's like, yeah, sometimes you just have years where everything clicks, and then you run. It's a simulation. Like, we ran the simulation 100 times, and 90 times it said this would happen, but this is the one simulation where it doesn't, or something. Like, I mean, that was just, the Vikings are 11-2 this year, to put it in that perspective. Run it back with the same team, same schedule, same format. They're probably not 11-2. Like, that's just how sometimes some things just break your way. And last year, everything broke the Timberwolves' way. And this year, some things are a little harder than it was a year ago. But it doesn't mean that this team is any worse than the one last year.
I am not one of those people who laments the Cat trade. That is, I just don't. I just don't. God bless that guy.
Yeah.
I believe wholeheartedly that this team is they're maybe less skilled defensively, which is weird because it's not like Carl was a juggernaut defensively, right?
Right.
But they had played together for a long time and they'd understood each other. I think this team is deeper. And what has happened is, and what I believe happens, and what will be a benefit to this team is that you're allowed to be Dante DiVincenzo and not know how to throw the ball in the ocean when you're standing on the beach, because you have guys like Jaden and Nikhil Alexander-Walker and Nas, and then obviously all the things that Julius and Edwards are going to do each and every single night. Like, you're allowed to have off nights because you're deep, and there's a system in place to kind of help supplement your struggling. What happened early is that entire system struggled together and is still in the early stages of figuring out each other. And if you're DiVincenzo and you're learning on how to have to refocus defensively your efforts and impress a new team and fan base with, like, there's a lot of things that are running through a guy's mind, let alone having to make buckets. The buckets will come. And they will for everybody. If you think about everybody being off for the first 5 weeks of the year, let's say, and things have sorted themselves out over the last 2 to 2.5, then now what happens when everybody's clicking? You're talking about a team that's killing people. Yeah. And no team has everybody clicking at the same time ever. That's just not how it works. But can half those guys be like, they're just a deeper team? They're going to be fine in the long run. I don't know if that means more or less wins by the end of the regular season. Probably means fewer wins. I don't know if that means a trip to the Western Conference Finals or farther like a year ago. They're going to be okay. They're going to be okay.
They're good enough they're good enough roster to get into the playoffs and avoid the play-in. And that's basically it.
They're better. They're better than that. They will be a better team than that when it's all said and done.
Right.
They might. Do they lose it first? They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine.
It's going to be fine. And you know what? Playoffs happen, playoffs, whatever. I mean, really, the fact is, like, there was a lot of people consternating on social media that this Wolves team was going to be a disaster and things were going to fall apart. But this team, like you said, this team is too talented to not figure it out. Heck, the year the Wolves first traded for Gobert, they played the whole year with D'Lo, and the thing was weird and whatever. And they traded for Conley at the end, and Naw came in and whatever. But that team wasn't as good as the team that was last year's team. And this team is on par with what last year's was talent-wise. And even that team 2 years ago, that was good. It wasn't very inconsistent and struggled. They still made the play-in and got into the playoffs and won a game against the eventual, and went pound for pound with the eventual NBA champions. And the NBA champions said in Denver that the Wolves were the hardest series they played in that entire playoffs. So, like, this team is talented. This team is too talented to be bad. Chris Finch is too good of a head coach to let things implode. It's going to be okay. Julius Randle's got a weird vibe, like, compared to Cat, obviously, but it's fine. Like, it's fine. It's going to be okay.
But we say that like Cat didn't.
Right.
Got born weird.
Cat was he was endearing because he'd been there from the beginning.
Just because we were used to his weird vibe doesn't mean it wasn't weird.
By the way, notice how he's in New York and nobody talks about his weird vibe at all. There's a Fat Joe or whatever his name is in New York has said Cat's like one of the top 5 centers. All of a sudden there's a Cat agenda getting pushed the moment he leaves the Wolves. Everybody's like, this Cat guy, he's been pretty good. Why don't more people talk about him? Like, that was you. You didn't talk about him for a decade. Thank you. Right. Anyway.
By the way, Timberwolves are 14-11. Knicks are 16-10.
Right. And by the way, I think they play each other this week.
They do. Correct.
Yeah. So there you go. The Cat revenge game.
Right.
The Dante DiVincenzo revenge game where he's just going to fight Tibbs and Coach Brunson after the game.
Yes, please.
More at center court, please. In a steel cage with the Undertaker showing up 10 minutes in.
Please.
just have a, "But God, that's Kevin Garnett's music," and then he just throws a chair.
Do whatever you got to do to get the bridge troll off of my TV screen.
You're just trying to watch a nice NBA game and you just hear switch, girl down. Oh man, they were the worst. That was the worst watching it. The worst. Glad I worked out in New York. Glad he's out of here.
Good for him. I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Glad he's not here. So
I'm not going to be rooting for him like I did KG. That's for sure.
No. In fact, weirdly, Tibbs' teams are great in the regular season and fall apart in the playoffs because their players break down.
Enjoy your lower leg injury, Jalen Brunson, come February 2nd.
Enjoy Cat. I mean, not that I wish Cat's getting hurt, but enjoy Cat having a weird elbow flare up because he's been playing through it for a month.
I mean, the guy who's had Achilles and back, leg and back issues for the past 3 straight seasons is now going to have to play in 82 straight games.
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck, bro.
Good luck. Cat never had an injury history, by the way, until he was done with the Tibbs era, where his body broke down.
Mm-hmm.
Cat never missed a game in his first 5 seasons, but then year 3 with Tibbs, all of a sudden he's missing games left and right. It's
yep. Funny how that works. R.I.P. Derrick Rose.
Speaking of teams, by the way, that are all about playing hard and playing the entire game, all 4 quarters, and then all of a sudden, even in blowouts, you're leaving your players in, and weirdly, half your team is hurt. Well, that's the Detroit Lions. Glad you got your blowout wins over Dallas and Jacksonville and Tennessee, but you left all your guys in. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson got hurt in a game. They were up by 3 scores in the second half.
Yeah. They still scored a lot of points.
Their defense, however, also gives up a lot of points.
Gave up half a century yesterday.
And in fact, by the way, they were going to lose that Chicago game if the Bears didn't lose it for themselves. But
the Bears are one to do.
They're one to do. And we'll talk about the Vikings-Bears game tonight. But I think this is an important thing that precedes it, is the fact that first of all, the congratulations to the Green Bay Packers, who got a win last night over the Seattle Seahawks, which means your Minnesota Vikings are in the playoffs.
Love it.
We're in.
Congratulations to the Vikings and their fans.
Remember when they started 5-0 and everybody's like, "Oh, 2016, here we come." And then they lost the 2 games in a row and everyone's like, "Oh no, it's going to happen." It's fine. This team is good. It's got a good head. The reason the Vikings imploded after the 5-0 start in 16, more to say about the head coach than it did the roster. But
I had nothing to say about them. Screw that guy too.
Weirdo, it's not working out in Dallas. But because the Packers won, the Vikings are in.
Mm-hmm.
It also means that Geno Smith got hurt in that game against the Packers.
Yeah.
Knee injury. We'll see if he plays on Sunday or if Sam throw it to the other team Howell.
That guy sounds like a founding father.
Mm-hmm. I think he played for Notre Dame. Shocker.
Is that true?
I think so.
Washington? I believe he started for the football team, didn't he?
Sam Howell played at North Carolina, I think. Yeah, he played at UNC.
No, I mean the Washington football team.
Yeah, he was drafted by the football squad because then they traded him over the winter because they knew they were taking Jaden Daniels. But there was a thought because they traded him and they were like, oh, maybe they're not taking Drake May then because him and Drake May were best buds. And the fact that they shipped him off. They're probably not taking him. And then they took Jaden Daniels, and it's working out for them. They're holding on to that last spot in the playoffs. But, the sad thing, the Packers won. Good thing the Vikings clinched their spot in the playoffs. But because Detroit lost to Buffalo, that means if the Vikings win tonight, and that's an if, and we'll get to that game. If the Vikings win tonight, they'll have the same record as the Detroit Lions. Now, unfortunately, the Lions have the head-to-head. But if the Vikings win out, and even if Detroit wins their next couple games, if they have the same record that's going into that last game, and the Vikings win, your Minnesota Vikings, Corey, would be the 1 seed in the entire NFC. It doesn't matter what Philadelphia does, according to strength of opponent, is how that would shift, according to the ESPN Power Playoff Index or whatever it's called, because the Vikings technically have beat, like the combined record of the teams they've beaten compared to Philadelphia's is better than the Eagles, the Vikings would get the 1 seed over Philadelphia if they finish with the same record.
Yeah, so go ahead and win. This is the fun part now, right? This is just the fun part. Eagles are 12-2. If the Vikings win out, they would finish with two. Both teams win out, they would both finish with 2 losses. Win the first one tonight. Obviously, you get you'd get that first week bye come the playoffs, and it's weird to be talking about it, but there are only 4 games left in the regular season for the Vikings, if you include tonight's Chicago game. So, this is like actual real stuff that's coming up here. And now again, for the first time for the Vikings, like a game that actually they all mean something, but there's a little extra. They know they got to watch everything happen yesterday and play out. Now they get to come into tonight's game and after watching Green Bay go into Seattle and kind of thump them. And even though Detroit gave up 48 points, or was that what it was? I think 48 to Buffalo. Yeah. They still scored 38 points. Like, Detroit's not going anywhere, man.
Right. Their offense can still score.
There is something that you can't just like take your foot off the gas here now for the Vikings. There is a little extra something going, and maybe that's good. Maybe that's good for the Vikings to have Green Bay right there nipping at their heels, and then the carrot to chase in the Detroit Lions. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. My brain tends to lean that way because I'm obviously a huge Vikings fan and hope that is the case. But man, they got to win tonight. Period.
Yep. They got to win.
Not be weird.
They got to win. And importantly, because now the Rams have taken control of the NFC West, and there's a chance the Vikings would have to go to play the Rams on the road. And by the way, nobody wants to play the Rams right now. They're starting to they were hurt for the first month of the year. Stafford was hurt and Nakua and Kupp were hurt. Mm-hmm. But that team was expected to be kind of good coming into this year. Yep. And they're good. They've got a good head coach. They have a quarterback who's won a Super Bowl. Their wide receivers are great. Their defense has a couple guys that can do stuff. That's a team you don't want to run into in the playoffs right away. So if you can find a way to make the playoffs run through US Bank Stadium, that'd be the play.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, there is something exists here that's like, it would be, if you want to be the woe is me Vikings fan and things are just always unlucky, it would be the thing that's like the year that they finished with 3 losses.
They got to go on the road.
Year that they don't even win the division, and they have to be a wild card team, and they got to go on the road against, who cares that the Rams beat you early? Like, it's just a weird, uncomfortable matchup that we've talked about a dozen times this year, so I don't need to rehash that. But there is that, like, of course that's how this would all work out, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. You don't even get to go to a crummy NFC South team. They got to go West.
And then you get called, and then you win all those games. You look impressive as you have, and then you still get called frauds.
Right.
And you're like, okay. No. Like, what'd be worse is if Atlanta somehow wins the cynical one is Atlanta somehow wins the division. You go down to Atlanta and Cousins lights you up with a game-winning drive. And then you get hits that you like that in the tunnel.
Well, that would be sad.
That would be like, I just might not watch football for a while.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, would be when I throw a table and go, when do the Twins start? Like, what's going on here?
No, think about that.
Yeah, which is, I'm pleading for Twins baseball right now. That's not something that should be happening.
I would move right into the Timberwolves. That's what I would do. It's nice to see that the Wild, by the way, are in their early winter slide. That's nice of them to get it out of the way early.
Nice. Yeah, like a month early. Usually it's like January. They start to fade. And then they get hot right in time for the trade deadline.
Usually they wait till the new year for that to happen. Christmas comes early for Minnesota Wild fans.
Give up a touchdown to Edmonton.
Get it out early so you can get hot late again, right?
Mm-hmm. With this game against the Bears, I think it feels like everybody's kind of looked past it because, the Bears, they fired their head coach. They embarrassed themselves on Thanksgiving. They fired their coach. They didn't even get the bump that a team gets from firing the coach, and everybody's like motivated the next week because they got just absolutely blasted by the 49ers. Like, they got like 10 yards of total offense. On the
49ers team.
Yeah. A team in San Francisco that is not having a fun time right now.
They are not.
Go for Devontae Campbell getting reamed in the media this week.
As he should.
What was that?
Not a good look, bro.
Turns out the try and get myself cut so I can sign with a different team plan is not working. Because
if you don't want to play, no one's going to sign you.
Well, that and the 49ers are like, okay, man, how about you be suspended until the playoffs? How about that? No pay. Good job, man.
Oops.
Now everybody's talking about it. You also did it in prime time. Do it on a Sunday noon game when nobody's paying attention.
Do it in the Chicago game.
Right.
You could have done it last week. No one would have cared.
Exactly. Anyway, but this is the point of like, it feels like we're not taking the Bears super seriously and you know what? They're not a good team. They're a team that just screams like body language is like, we want this year to be over and just hit the reset button so bad. And we need to get whoever, Ben Johnson, to come in here or hire John Gruden or I don't know, whatever. Like the team is waiting for their next head coach to come in here and try and restore some order. But Caleb Williams did do some stuff against the Vikings when they played at Soldier Field. A lot of escapability, a lot of mobility. The Vikings probably without Stephon Gilmore again today. And you're one corner down. The Bears have receivers. Caleb Williams has shown Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard can win their matchups and then still lose to Caleb Williams because he can shimmy out of a sack and find a guy downfield. And that's kind of how you beat the Vikings in their blitz. You bounce out of the pocket and somebody's running open 20 yards downfield. That could happen. That could happen. The Bears defense is still good. They still have players. They could turn Sam Darnold over. They could, this is the second time you've played a divisional opponent in the season. They're not going to play Justin Jefferson the way they played him, where they basically just let Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson get both 100 plus receiving yards. So it could happen. I mean, the Vikings embarrassed themselves against the Bears last year on Monday Night Football.
So there's a few things. One, it's a divisional game, and divisional games are always weird. Just period. It's just a rule. It doesn't matter. NFC North, pick a division. Divisional games are weird. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's Chicago. And as a rule, it's even weirder against Chicago.
No normal games are played against the Bears.
Ever. And especially at Soldier Field. But, fortunately, that's not the case this go around, but it still doesn't matter. And the third thing is what you mentioned with Caleb. Caleb provides the same problems that Kyler offers. And I don't have to rehash that. You went through it. But there are three things very much at stake. A bonus fourth, their receivers are good and our defensive backs are not. So there's things here that we're allowed to take them lightly because we're just fans and idiots. The players cannot. And I don't care when it's all said and done if it's weird and they just win weirdly. That's fine. Because the wins right now are the most important thing. I would be thrilled with a fourth quarter turn on the Jets like they did against Atlanta sort of thing, where if it's like 13-10 going into the fourth quarter and then the final score is 40-10, you know what I mean? Like they just beat the brakes off of them. That'd be great. That would be awesome.
And I know a lot of people look at this Vikings team and they go, oh, well, the Vikings, they play all these teams close. And, Philadelphia, by the way, look at who the Eagles have beat. They haven't really blown out anybody all year long. They played neck and neck with the Panthers. They play neck and neck with, it happens sometimes. It's the NFL. Most teams lose games more than win. These games are closer than we think. We all agree Chicago's a talented team that was held down by bad coaching.
Yes.
All year. So they have the talent to make it interesting. So
yes.
Vikings squeak out a game. Don't anybody come back tomorrow and go, oh, they barely beat the Bears. This team isn't going to do anything in the playoffs.
Football. They don't care about going on the road on a Sunday afternoon and getting killed on a weird, tumultuous week by San Francisco.
This is national television.
Absolutely care about getting killed on Monday Night Football.
Well, at least there's two games, so it's not all the attention. Kirko is playing the other Monday night game.
I would love that. This would be as the Vikings fan, it would be the best to make that game so miserable that the rest of the country has to decide to turn on a Kirk Cousins game
against the Raiders. By the way, the Desmond Ridder revenge game. He's starting for the Raiders against. The Vikings.
Right. That's I would love if the Vikings game went that way, so that the whole country's like, I guess I'll watch Atlanta, Oakland. I mean Vegas, wherever they're from. That sounds miserable. That game sounds miserable.
There's a reason why everybody's kind of wondering why the NFL has scheduled like 2 different Monday night games more frequently. Usually it's like an opening season kind of thing, but they've done it throughout the year. And I think it's because, well, there's 2 games. What's the odds that both of them are duds? Because if one of them's a dud, they're just out. But at least if you have a second one, there's the odds that one of them's not a dud, or at least that you can go back and forth and keep yourself entertained before you just change it to something else entirely.
Yep.
And it's kind of worked so far.
Yeah, sure.
But if the Vikings game is poor, I don't know how much help Desmond Ritter's gonna. It could be. At least the Vikings got Troy Aikman and Joe Bucker on the call tonight.
Yes.
Vikings game. I don't know who has the other one. It's like I don't know, who do they get? Joe.
Is that one on ABC?
I think the Vikings one is on ABC.
The Vikings one is on ABC.
Yeah, and then the other one's on ESPN.
Sure.
But like I can't remember. Like I know they put Orlovsky on the crew. I don't know who does play-by-play for the second unit.
Yeah, like Steve Levy or something like that.
Yeah, it probably is Steve Levy, actually. Who was the name of that guy they found for like the second Monday night game like 7 years ago? And the guy just looked like he did not belong out there. He was like a field reporter and he like barely spoke English and he couldn't get through like a sentence. I want to find.
It was like Jorge Cedeno or something like that.
Monday night.
I remember that. But it was that poor guy got roasted for no reason. He does like the ESPN Deportes calls. And just there was like something in that broadcast went totally awry, and the poor guy's first time ever at Monday Night Football just got he got thrown under the bus basically by the broadcast.
Yeah, his producers put him in a horrible position, and also he had the name Sergio Dip.
Is that what it was? Okay, yeah.
And that was all like Sergio Dip. Who the heck is this guy with 2 P's?
Yeah, now it makes, by the way, I just want to clear the air. It makes it seem like I just guessed a racist name and just picked a very like Spanish sounding name. There is like a Jorge Cedeno who does broadcasting for ESPN. There is. I want to be clear on this. I wasn't just randomly picking out.
It's too late. You're canceled. You're canceled. You know what? I can't. I think
that is a disgusting act.
You know what? You're canceled.
Apologies to Sergio.
You're gonna lose the sponsorships, Corey. Vikings win tonight.
Yeah,
they win.
I think we're right to think this is not going to be a problem.
Does Sam Darnold throw for 5 touchdowns like he did last time against the Falcons?
No, I think this is going to be like a weird, like Aaron Jones is going to have like a pass, like a receiving and a rushing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those.
It's going to be one of those games. Does Justin Jefferson get held to 2 catches like he did last time?
I mean, they should play the same defense. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, heck, they got gashed the last time. So
I don't care if he only has 2 catches. If Addison and Hawkinson combined for 225 and 3 scores.
The only problem is, yeah, exactly. If you're Chicago, you're like, because there were fans who were like, oh, we slowed down Jefferson, only 2 catches. It's like, my guy, look at the other stat lines.
Yeah, you had 8 guys playing. You had 3 guys. You did a box and 1 on Justin Jefferson.
And turns out the other guy, they did a box and 1 on a team with 4 3-point shooters. It's like, oh, weird that we got killed. Yeah.
Good job stopping him. Way to go.
Yeah, there you go.
Everyone else.
Good job. And the fact that Jordan Addison just is coming off of a 3 touchdown game, probably they're like, we can't do that again. There's no way they go out that exact same philosophy.
They have to, though. I mean, you have to. You have to play the same way. You just have to. You can't let Justin Jefferson beat you.
Well, the Falcons let him.
That was stupid. I'm saying that was dumber than what Chicago did.
To the Falcons, very progressive for being a team to use only blind corners.
That was the stupidest decision. I mean, if you're Chicago, you got to do the same thing. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
If Justin Jefferson goes for 13 catches and 227 and 3 scores, you're an idiot.
Well, their coaching staff's not coming back next year anyways.
True.
So what do they got to lose?
Want to put together a resume, though. Be like, I was the only one who figured out how to stop Justin Jefferson combined for 5 catches and 42 yards. Don't
look at the other receiver stats. Don't look at that. Just look at this. Look at this cherry pick stat. It's like somebody, I think it was like FanDuel or Sleeper or some place put out a tweet that said 5 touchdown games since 2019. And they're like, Lamar has more than Mahomes. Somebody's like, that's generational cherry picking because they took out the 2018 season. Mahomes would have more. And that's Lamar entered the league in 2018. So if we just take out 1 year of Lamar, if we take out the bad year for Lamar and only counted the good years, he's actually better than Mahomes.
And you took the, like, historically one of the best season, the best quarterback season of all time.
Right, where Mahomes just jumped out and was like, hey, I could throw 50 touchdown passes. Yeah, generational stat picking.
Oh, good job. Good, congrats to Lamar.
Congrats to Lamar. Both of them are not winning the MVP.
Not anymore. Lamar had a chance. He had by the way, I have Lamar and Jaden as my fantasy quarterbacks. And every week it's just like, what an unbelievable plus that has been to have those two guys be your quarterbacks. I guess I'll go with Lamar this week. Oh, only 35 from Lamar. Good. He outscored Jaden's 29.
Good. The bum. That's why he's sitting on the bench.
Bum.
This has been the Morning Sports Desk on a Monday, 16th of December. We'll see you next time and all that good stuff.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.